It's the time of year for head colds and smoking bacon and killing ducks and taking down the copas that you cured in the spring.
And processing deer.
Did
you say that?
No.
Oh, okay.
But that's what we're going to talk about today is processing deer. Venison. I was butchering one right before we started this. And we're live on Instagram. So I was going to mention to those people that on Instagram our topic is venison and the butchery and eating thereof. So if you want to posit questions there, do, and we will try to answer them to the best of our ability. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid that if anyone has, any really high expectations for new answers that they haven't heard before from me, they might be a little disappointed because it's all as simple as braising, pan frying, and roasting. But we'll try to flesh that out, as it were, a little more with deer.
When you think of hunting, you think of it being more of a guy hobby, maybe. But it's really kind of a family, at least the way that we approach it. How can entire families get in on hunting or just experiencing the wealth that venison can give you?
Yeah, probably not supposed to say this, but no, in our family, like, we haven't been able to do that.
That's true. Yeah.
As hunting is usually conceived. I have fantasized about hunting on and off for a decade, just because of the challenge of it, the demand of it, and the culinary possibility in particular. Like, my fantasy for hunting is to almost bring no venison home, which is a little weird. Oh. But I want to set up camp. And I want to bring in lots of wild animal flesh with a large family. And we just cook everything over open flame. And we would bring some stuff home, maybe. But we'd really cook a lot. I love the idea of a hunting camp. Because, so much of that, the meat just thrives upon being consumed fresh. Like everything else, fresh meat is effortlessly delicious.
That's true, yeah.
But so that's my fantasy, which is weird for us to talk about venison, considering I've never actually hunted any. I have been the lucky recipient of many a roadkill deer.
Yeah. You're usually the first person Vashonites call.
Yes.
I hit a deer in the head. Now it's dead. What should I do with it?
Yeah.
Call Brandon.
Call me. And I've picked up several deer on the road, even when I really don't want to. Because it always comes at inopportune times, like a car full of children who need to go to sleep. Yeah. And that has happened to us. It's 9:30 p.m. and we pass a deer on a bank and it's laying in the road. And the road is banked and the rear end of the deer is uphill and the head of the deer is downhill. And the point of impact was clearly just the head. And you can see the entire blood supply of the deer on the other side of the road running out of it. Right. So it's like this doe has been slaughtered perfectly. Yeah. Rammed in the head and bled out perfectly. Yeah. And so I had to come back for that one. Yeah. I think you insisted. Yeah. Like, you have to go get that deer.
This is a little too perfect.
We'll drop the kids off at home and then you take the truck out and you bring
it was so fresh. And so perfectly bled out, which doesn't happen. Even in a hunting scenario.
Yeah, that's right.
It's hard for hunters to get that perfect setup. So we went for it.
Yeah, and I say, to be sure, the most distinguishing element, I guess, the greatest challenge of deer butchery is the trauma of the kill. Right. I mean, the whole front end, man. When you're going for that heart shot, when you got the whole front quarter from the chest shot, whether it be bow or rifle or something. Wow, she's liberating a lot.
We're having some issues, some dairy withholding issues.
But no, the trauma is crazy. It really limits the shoulder to extracting the backstrap.
Right.
And then you kind of grind everything else.
Yeah.
From the whole front end.
Yeah.
From the front arms, the shoulder blade. Because the trauma travels in the form of bloodshot, the capillaries rupture. And they send blood through all of the fascia in between the muscles. Mm-hmm. And it's just completely saturated. You know how bacon has layers, like fat meat. It's blood meat. Layers of blood in the shoulder. And it is kind of a bummer. It's a lot of loss. And so it's always really special when I can get a deer with minimal trauma in the chest, enough to save like a brisket.
Right.
Because that's up there in the chest. But usually all of that stuff is subject to the trauma. Unless you find yourself a deer that has been smacked in the head by a truck.
Exactly.
Or someone got a neck shot.
Right.
Which is usually accidental.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe hunters can answer if people aim for the neck. You would have to be real close.
Right.
I mean, part of the reason you aim for the chest is because it's a larger target. And it is the surest way to deliver a decisive kill.
Right.
In most situations.
To get the heart.
But if you have a scoped rifle and you're hunting that way, and you're certain you can hit the neck, man, that is by far and away the best way to harvest a deer as far as zero waste goes, because you shatter the spine and completely cripple the deer instantly. If it's a powerful enough rifle. Mm-hmm. And you also rupture the carotid and jugular veins, so the deer bleeds out at the same time. And the only thing you lose is like the middle of the neck.
Right.
It doesn't, the fascia in between the shoulder blade and the chest cavity is just, it traverses so much landscape on the deer's body that so much blood can travel it. Whereas the neck is just smaller muscles with more fissures that the bloodshot meat doesn't travel nearly as far. Mm-hmm. And so that can amp up the quantity of your yield by a huge amount. Mm-hmm. Very significant. Mm-hmm. Way to increase the yield.
Yeah.
So neck shots if you can, from a butcher's perspective, because it's so painful. I'm just cleaning up a whole forequarter, layer by layer. And you do it gingerly because you don't want to take away any more than you have to. And by the time you're done, you're like, wow, okay, I've got like several naked ribs, and a backstrap.
Yeah.
And some meat around the shoulder blade.
Yeah.
So we've got some hunters saying that the neck is a bad shot to guarantee the hit to veins, especially if there was wind or so there's it's a smaller target, so it's way harder to hit the neck.
And you're far away.
Way
It's
harder.
the nature of hunting.
So you go for the chest. And it moves, right?
That too.